Hello everybody at Neutrino Days 2020. My name is Dr. Rayanne Metler. I'm a biology instructor at Black Hills State University in Spearfish, South Dakota. And here I'm going to show you a demonstration of how to use Nature's Notebook to document phenology changes. This could be wherever you live, or it could be as you're traveling. And so this is a great idea of something anybody can do. Kids, families, college students, retired adults, anybody can contribute to this growing knowledge based on citizen science about how nature changes over time. And so I'll just give you some pointers today on how to get started, particularly how to use the cell phone app to document observations using the Nature's Notebook app. So here I'm sharing the website of Nature's Notebook. You can see the web address here, USANPN, that's the National Phenology Network, .org, and then Nature's_Notebook, okay, with the backslash in between. But you can easily find this by Googling Nature's Notebook as well. So some great resources to get started on why you'd want to document changes where you live are seen in this website here, this homepage, and we can take a peek at this video as well to perhaps get a better idea of why we should document changes in nature where you live, or as you're traveling, or as you're going on camping trips, for example. Okay, so here's the basic instructions. This is a free account. You can become an observer of any experience level with these 3 steps. 1, you need to join Nature's Notebook. So start an account and a password, right? Set up that account and then start observing. It's really that easy, and there's no major requirements other than you do your best to make these observations and document them. So what we're doing is tracking seasonal changes in both plants and in animals, okay? So sometimes you're focused on one type of plant species, for example, and you see a butterfly stop by, or you see a pollinator or a small mammal, and these are all great observations of how the focus species, whether it be a plant or animal, may be affecting other species, and it really helps us understand ecology better in that way. All right, scrolling down the page a bit, I really recommend looking into joining one of these featured campaigns, and you can look at these in a bit more detail. But I have my own college students this summer working on the Nectar Connectors campaign. So let's take a peek at what that looks like. So Nectar Connectors, we're looking at flowering times of important nectar sources for not only monarch butterflies, but other important pollinators, and documenting the presence of certain species that are important to pollinators, but as well the flowering and fruiting times nationwide or even worldwide is really important to understand how the phenology of these important plant species is connected to the insect pollinators and even some birds too, right, as pollinators that depend on these plants, okay? And so in many ways, yes, the animals, the insects and birds are depending on plants as a source of food and a place for insects to lay eggs, but at the same time, the plant is depending on the pollinators as well to move their pollen around, and so that the plants can reproduce, that their pollen can be transferred to the female reproductive parts of other plants, right? So it's a really interesting campaign to look into how these plants and animals are connected. And spring into fall is a great time to join this particular campaign. So I welcome you to read into this if you're interested. And you can see some of the information that they learned from last year's campaign. But here you can see some important focal species. There's about 53 species of these nectar plants that are important to various pollinators. I'm having my college students this summer focus on milkweed species for the most part, and actually there's a lot of different milkweed species, but some of these others you may be familiar with are sunflowers and bee balm, right? Black-eyed Susans, right? They're not necessarily rare plants, but indeed when you have a bit of a search image for these plants, then you can make observations much more easily. So here are some instructions of how to get going. And you want to join this group or join this campaign, and you can follow these steps to do that. I will demonstrate how to narrow down the search list of what plant species you might be looking for in your area. Maybe you're out on a walk or out on a hike, or you've seen these species before and you actually want to take an observation of these plants. So there's various different plants and many different family and genre. One thing you can do is look at these different pictures, and for example, let's look at common milkweed. So common milkweed, as well as perhaps showy milkweed, I've seen around the spearfish area. Okay, and so common milkweed, let's say I know where to find some, or I want to look for some, and so each species has a detailed page. You can find out what states the species are found in with this range map. Okay, gives you some information about leaves and flowers and the fruits. Okay, so each of these species has a dedicated information sheet right in the website. Okay. Another way you could narrow down the list of plants for the Nectar Connectors campaign is to go through the menu, observe, and plants and animals. Okay, there's some instructions listed up top, but I'll give you a quick run through because I'm in South Dakota right now. I want to find out what plants that I could track in my region. Okay, so I click South Dakota. And for this particular project, I'll focus just on plants, not on animals this time around, but you're welcome to look into all species. Maybe you want to focus on birds instead. Okay, but for Nectar Connectors, we're really looking at the plants. Okay, and then I'll check this Advanced tab, and I'll search through Group and go down to the Nectar Connectors campaign. Okay, it takes a minute to think about those selections. Then I'll go ahead and push the search button. And in my state of South Dakota, you could be anywhere, right? Anywhere in the US or perhaps even beyond. But in my state, I have these species that I could be tracking, right? So let's go and display 27 and see if we could get all these to fit in one page. And indeed we do. So this is a good way if you're in South Dakota, if you'd like to print out the species, go ahead and do that with your computer, and you have a picture and the names of those as kind of a handy reference card. All right, the next thing you want to do after you know what species to look for the Nectar Connectors campaign is to use the observation deck to make those observations, okay? So of course it'll step you through creating an account and password, so account and password like that. I'll just go ahead and log in. And you can either use the website version to document observations. There's a few modules you can run through to review the instructions, kind of a how-to of making observations. Okay, let's say I made an observation at the hatchery and I want to add in some common milkweed observations. So you can go through these tabs below and to enter your observation data in that way. And it's designed to be pretty straightforward and quick. It could take less than 5 minutes to report your observations, right? You don't have to go into all these details necessarily, but the important data is right here. So, for example, it is late June right now, and likely we do have some initial plant growth for common milkweed, for example. There's leaves present. And now we're starting to see some of the flower buds opening. So this is a really exciting time, right? So you can estimate the percentage of flowers that are open. This is just one individual plant, right, that you're focusing on. So it doesn't take a lot of time. I recommend you take a photo of the plant too, and just keep that as a reference, okay? But you can, are there less than 3 flowers? Are there 11 to 100? This is going to vary depending on the plant, right? But use the information from your plant guides or the information sheet on this website to make your best estimate. But no, there weren't any fruits or ripe fruits or fruit or seed drops at this time. But if I keep tracking these plants over the weeks and months, I will likely see some of those change from a no to a yes, okay? And so this is basically how you do that, and you enter that observation using the website version, which is a great way to collect that data. And scientists then use this data as they're looking at nationwide patterns in either the plant species or the pollinators that are relying on these species. And so your information you're contributing from your backyard or your travels is contributing to a larger research project, right? And this is great. This is great for kids to get involved in as well and learn about different plant parts and how they're changing throughout the annual cycle. This is called phenology. Okay, so that was just a glimpse of how to record observations on any type of plant or any type of animal using Nature's Notebook. Okay, so Nature's Notebook has tons of plants and animals already loaded into its catalog, and I'm just choosing, one particular campaign that's really interesting, that's related to pollinators, the plants that they rely on. So what I like using even more than the website for Nature's Notebook observations is the mobile app. And it's a little hard to show you through this webcam and this video tutorial of what my cell phone app looks like, but the module here provides a great how-to. So it provides really great instructions here for you to get that set up or to review before you start taking observations. So yes, Nature's Notebook is a citizen science program for all ages, right? You can do this as an individual, with your family, right? And it's a great way to have some goals when you're outside documenting plants and animals and what they look like at different times of the year. So again, you want to find that mobile app for Nature's Notebook in either your iPhone App Store or your Android App Store, and basically, add in your account information or install and log in to that account, that app account, and it'll look like this. It'll have a little bird and have just a app icon on your phone, just like any others, okay? And so you will see a login, and I believe you only need to do this once, and then it's kind of set for a while. And you select your username, and if you want to add or join a group, and here's where you can look for the Nectar Connectors campaign there. Okay. The next thing would be navigating the app. Okay, and so there's various different categories of what you can do with the app. Then you'll see that you can select various sites. Maybe you just want one site, your own garden, or you have a favorite hiking trail. So you can have a number of sites all lined up that you want to observe, and it'll do a good job collecting the location data off of your phone, or you can type in an address as well. Okay, so they want to be pretty accurate about the geographic location of where you're making your observation. Okay, and then for example, maybe you have multiple sites at one location. So I could be on the BHSU campus and yet have various sites like the Life Science Lab and the campus garden and near the football field. Okay, so maybe you have various sites within one location. Yep. And then here's the opportunity again to join a group or a campaign, not required at all, but sometimes it's fun to be part of a certain type of data set in that way. All right, and then you'll see in the app that you can, once you select your site that you're observing from, and I recommend you do this as you're out at the site if you can, right? Then you can select the various plants and animals that can be found there, and perhaps this is where you want to be focused in on those plants that are important to pollinators or your own ideas and goals when you're out and about. Okay, so plants and animals, they can be found here, and the information sheets are also available in the app version. Okay, and then you get to the data observation itself. So looks like this individual is documenting a Texas barometer bush and documenting something about the leaves, flowers, fruits, right? And basically you have yes, no questions, and some of these will be the, percentage of open flowers, for example. And that data is important to conduct research. Okay, so you can see how simple it is. Once you get your site set up, and you select plants and animals, and you just push on the buttons to document your observation that particular day. Maybe you went out yesterday or last weekend and took some photos of your plants, but didn't have data service or Wi-Fi at the time. Sure, you can go back and observe these retrospectively, set the date and time if you even like. And better late than never, right, to get those observations in. You don't necessarily have to have data or Wi-Fi to do that. So, and that's why I like to take photos when I'm out doing this, so I don't have to necessarily stare at my phone for 10 minutes. I can get back to it later and enter the observation in this way. Okay, that's pretty much it. So, you can look into the more details on your observations through this module. But that's a great way to just show you what the app looks like. It's super handy, and it's really nice to see your data collecting over time and contribute to a nationwide project. Okay, next I just want to mention that not everybody's a trained plant identifier or animal identifier. Sometimes you need a little bit of help to identify what exact species that you found. And this is the exciting part of exploring sometimes, right? And so what I recommend, I found this great group on Facebook, South Dakota Plants and Wildlife. It's a public group. They largely will be sharing really nice photographs of various wildlife that we're spotting across our state, but also visitors and members will post photos and ask for help with identification. So I recommend if you're stumped with a plant that you think is really awesome and beautiful or never seen before, or you thought you've seen it and just need some help, can't find it in your plant guide, I recommend you post it here and look, for example, at some of the great photography posted just this past week. So here's somebody just going out in a road ditch by his house in Sanborn County and photographing the various things he's seeing. And if you look at the photos, they're likely annotated with the type of plant, pineapple weed in this case. So what I really have been liking here is tracking statewide different milkweed and the progression of milkweed in different phenophases across our own state. So let's see if I can find some by just scrolling through here. Here's a nice one. Deb Teger in, let's see, I don't have a location on her right now, but looks like she's got some milkweed, and she's been using the iNaturalist app to help identify insects she's finding on her milkweed. So here's an idea. If you are looking for a particular species or group of plants like I am, and I just typed in milkweed to the search in this group, and I click search just to narrow it down. If I'm interested to see, are there other species or plants flowering already in our state of South Dakota? Is anybody spotting caterpillars of monarchs, for example? And so I just looked at Deb's post. Here we have some showy milkweed and some huge bumblebees that have been spotted, happy in the milkweed flowers. That's a great photo, right? By Julie Landis there. Jeff Hansen has spotted some species of caterpillars on his milkweed, but he's never seen these species, so he's asking for some help with identification here. Okay, so a different type of caterpillar is found on Jeff's milkweed. So this is great. He's been tracking these for years, right? And finding changes this year. Some different insects are feeding on those milkweed. Here, somebody believes they have their first monarch egg. This is Christina Brock. And so here you can see how minuscule this egg is, but how significant it is as well, because the leaves provide a food source for the caterpillars of the monarchs. Here's some nice images that you can see from Shelley's property. And you see now these are milkweed that are flowering, right? So this might be a different phenophase in different parts of the state. Seeing the pine trees tells me she might be in western South Dakota, but not necessarily, right? Okay, and so yeah, this is great. Oh, here's this great photo from Jeff. You know, a big, fat, happy monarch caterpillar on his milkweed. So this is Sanborn County. This is great. So I just really get excited to be able to look at these different species, different phenophases in a shared group on Facebook in this way. Here's green milkweed. Okay, so maybe not as common as some of the others. So a great photo there of green milkweed from Grant County. Okay, so I recommend this group to actually anybody that's enjoying Neutrino Days to look into plants and wildlife. So South Dakota Plants and Wildlife public group just asked to join, and it's really exciting to contribute photos and experiences, ask for help, and enjoy everybody else's love for nature as well. Okay, lastly, I want to close on this video provided on Nature's Notebook webpage that helps answer the question, you know, why document observations in this way? Why not just keep it in a notebook and share at the dinner table? You know, what are you contributing to when you document your observations about plant and animal phenology in this way? So let's watch this video to close out this video tutorial. At the end, I'll list my contact information if you'd like to ask me any additional questions about using Nature's Notebook or the South Dakota Plants and Wildlife Facebook group. Okay, so there's some really great messages in that video. You can actually contribute as a volunteer to climate change research, to conservation research, ecology and evolutionary research, and anybody can do this. And you can do this once every week, once a month, right? There's not necessarily rules on how often you make your observations, but what a great thing to get a family involved in, or a group of friends that likes to go hiking at a spot that you go once a month or even once a year and document annual changes. I think it's especially important during a pandemic like this to connect with nature while social distancing and get out and really appreciate nature and how it changes over time. So I encourage you to volunteer as an observer for Nature's Notebook in this way, using the web version or the mobile app version to document your observations that are called phenophases, right? It's not just that you saw a plant on this date, but you're observing the different phases of this plant's life cycle, right? Or an animal's life cycle or an insect's life cycle. And this enables us to track changes that are happening on short to very long time scales, right? And your one observation can have a great impact on our understanding of our natural world. Okay, so with that, I've left my contact information up here in green. So again, I'm Dr. Rayanne Mettler, biology instructor at Black Hills State University. I've left my email address and office phone number if you'd like to reach out or have any ideas of how to extend some of these ideas further in our greater South Dakota area, even our regional area, nationwide. I'd love to share ideas to make this a more impactful way to get out and make observations. So with that, have a great neutrino days, everybody. And thanks for the organizers for enabling these types of virtual presentations.